Republic of Uganda. Your Excellency, the Vice President of Uganda, Honorable Jessica Alupo, the Honorable Chief Justice of the Republic of Uganda, Alphonse Chigamoy Owinidolo, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Robina Nabanja, the Deputy Prime Ministers, the Minister of Gender, Labour, Social Development, Honorable Betty Amongi, all ministers and senior government officials present, the UN Resident Coordinator, Susan Ngongi, heads of diplomatic missions and heads of UN agencies, and in particular I would like to recognize the country representative of UN Women, Ms. Paulina Jiwangu, members of parliament, representatives of district local governments, religious and cultural leaders, women's organizations and activists, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. It is an honor to be here with you today as we come together to celebrate International Women's Day under the theme Accelerating Gender Equality Through Women's Economic Empowerment. Yes, as was said, I'm representing the Republic of Austria and Uganda, but today, first and foremost, I represent all the gender development partners in Uganda. First and foremost, I would like to express my appreciation to the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Honourable Betty Amongi, and her dedicated staff for organising this event. The Ministry's ongoing effort to advance gender equality and to empower women in Uganda deserve our sincere recognition. I also would like to thank in a very special way His Excellency, the President of Uganda, for his strong interest, engagement, and unwavering support towards the cause of gender equality and gender equity in Uganda. In a particular way, I would also like to celebrate the presence of many very accomplished women in high positions in the government of Uganda, including, of course, Her Excellency, the Vice President, and the Right Honourable Prime Minister. In a world grappling with numerous challenges, the importance of achieving gender equality cannot be overstated. As communities face unprecedented pressures, securing women's and girls' rights across all facets of life has become paramount. This is not just for the sake of equality, but it is necessary for building prosperous and just economies and ensuring a healthy planet for future generations. Advancing gender equality is indeed critical if Uganda is to attain the aspirations as laid out in Vision 2040, the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030, and the African Union Vision 2063, amongst others. Women's equal representation and participation is key to inclusive economic growth. Today, we see many advancements on leadership in the private sector, where women now lead in some of Uganda's largest sectors, including finance, telecommunications, agriculture, and others. We commend the government of Uganda for putting a strong legal and policy framework in place to enable and drive these advancements. However, while we celebrate the progress, we must also reflect on the areas where we need to concentrate our efforts in the future. Uganda continues to experience large gender gaps in labour force participation and skilling. Labour force participation stands at 58% for men compared to only 39% for women. Furthermore, the gender pay gap persists, with women earning just a little bit over half of what men make. There are also alarmingly persistent gender gaps in economic empowerment amongst young people. where of the 2.3 million youth that are not in employment, education or training, the rate amongst young women is almost 80% higher than amongst young men. In addition, women and girls continue to face significant disparities in wealth, in asset ownership, in access to markets, and availability of finance and technology. These challenges are compounded by overarching obstacles that hinder their progress, including persistently high levels of gender-based violence, restricted access to sexual and reproductive health services, and prevalent social and cultural norms which block women's advancement. Here I would just like to stop a bit because I think this is really a key issue, the social and cultural norms. What are they? Just to give a few examples. For example, that women should not work, that they should stay at home and raise the children. Regarding gender-based violence, for example, that if your husband doesn't beat you, he doesn't love you in some cultures. I also vividly recall an experience I had in the Acholi sub-region, where I met a woman in her 50s, and she was telling me her life story, and she was crying, and she said she was a teacher, and she said that all her life she worked, but she gave each and every salary to her husband. Her husband mainly spent the money on drinking and on other women, and now, in her 50s, after having worked all her life, she basically has nothing left. This kind of economic abuse, Your Excellency, also hinders women's economic empowerment. So what must be done? We must, firstly, invest in programs and initiatives that are tailored to the needs of women's businesses. 38% of businesses in Uganda are owned by women, yet only 44% out of these are registered. To truly support these enterprises, we must invest in tailored business services and ease the process of formalization, including gender-responsive tax policies. We welcome initiatives such as the GROW program and look forward to additional measures that foster growth, formalization, and economic policies supporting women's businesses. Secondly, the social and cultural norms that undermine gender equality and women's advancement must be addressed as key enablers for eradicating poverty. This includes continued efforts on addressing gender-based violence both at home and in the workplace, which hampers women removing themselves from poverty. Thirdly, we need enabling policies and implementation. While we commend the efforts to date, more must be done to enforce changes in the world of work with enabling policies, closing the gender pay gap, addressing violence in the workplace, and taking targeted actions to tackle the unpaid care work burden, including through the expansion of social protection and family-friendly policies. We welcome the passing of the Employment Amendment Bill in 2023 and believe its ascension and implementation will greatly advance the position of women in the world of work. Furthermore, it would be important to see how fiscal policies can be more responsive to differential impacts on women and girls. Fourthly, we also need to close the gaps in education and skilling. The investments made in young people today will be critical to the projection of Uganda's development in the future. We therefore must invest in human capital development, in particular programs that support the re-entry into education and second chance education options for girls who have dropped out due to the high rates of early pregnancy and other challenges. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, the number of adolescents getting pregnant spiked because they were exposed to sexual abuse following the closure of schools. Last year, 1,065 teenage pregnancies were recorded daily in Uganda. a total of 31,565 pregnancies were registered monthly, a figure higher than ever before. Investing in education will certainly increase the rate of school-going girls, in turn ensuring their safety and ultimate participation in the economic growth of the nation. Your Excellency, as your partners, advancing the gender equality and women's empowerment is a key priority that we see as fundamental for sustained and equitable growth. This work is important to the overall quality of development results. Uganda's population is projected to increase by 60% in the next 20 years to around 74 million, from an estimated 45 million in 2021. Close to 2/3 of the population will be of working age, and about half will reside in urban centers. This presents an enormous opportunity and necessity to invest in human capital. We welcome the trend towards increasing the government of Uganda's budgetary allocations in this area. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, as the gender development partners in Uganda, we invested over $250 million last year in gender-targeted programs alone, in addition to multiple other programs which targeted women's inclusion. Together with the government of Uganda, we are committed to investing in gender equality and women's empowerment, as this is a crucial necessity to ensure that no woman and no girl is left behind. I thank you very much, and happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much, our development partner. A big hand of applause as she leaves, as I invite the UN Resident Coordinator, Madam Pauline Chiwango.